There's something unshakably powerful about a person who walks alone without flinching. Not because they don't feel the sting of silence, but because they've stopped giving it the power to define them. Most people are terrified of being by themselves, not because solitude is unbearable, but because in that silence there are no distractions from their truth. But when you finally decide to stay, to sit with yourself and not run, you discover the person you were always meant to be, someone who doesn't just endure isolation, but commands it. You begin to realize that stillness is not empty. It's full of answers you've been too busy to hear. Everything in your life changes the moment you stop trying to fill every gap with noise, people, or validation. Because when you no longer need someone else to make you feel whole, you step into a kind of freedom most never touch. You stop being driven by fear and start being led by purpose. You stop seeking permission to exist and start standing in your own presence with strength. And from that place, you stop attracting chaos. You stop accepting crumbs. You start raising your standards, not just for others, but for how you treat yourself. This is where real courage lives, not in loud declarations or grand gestures, but in the quiet decision to stay, to breathe, to rebuild. You start seeing yourself not as a broken piece looking for completion, but as a complete force that needs nothing but clarity and direction. Your worth is no longer borrowed from attention. It's forged in the fire of inner work. It's deep. It's unshakable. And most of all, it's yours. People will notice. They'll feel the difference in your energy, the way you move, the way you no longer beg for space in anyone's life. Because now, your space, your solitude, is sacred. It's where you think clearly, heal deeply, grow fearlessly, and when you emerge from it, you don't return desperate. You return decisive. You choose who gets access. You choose what stays and what goes. Because now, you're not running from solitude. You're using it as a filter for what truly serves your soul. This is the power that lives inside you, not just to survive alone, but to thrive in it, to use it, to master it, and to realize that the fear that once held you hostage was only trying to protect you from something you were strong enough to face all along. When you take that step, when you sit in the silence and listen, something changes. You stop feeling like a person waiting to be chosen. You start acting like someone who has already chosen themselves. And that choice, that bold, brave decision to stand tall in solitude, is where everything begins to shift. It's not the end of connection, it's the start of authentic living. You no longer fear being alone because now you know you are your own strength, you are your own sanctuary, and you are enough, always have been. Have you ever wondered why the thought of being alone can feel more terrifying than failure, rejection, or even pain? It creeps in during the quiet moments, when the noise fades and you're left with nothing but your thoughts. That's when it hits you, the emptiness, the ache, the unsettling silence that wraps around your chest and makes you question your worth. You check your phone, you scroll endlessly, you reach for distractions, not because you're bored, but because you're scared. Scared of sitting still, scared of being alone with yourself. But what if the very thing you're running from is the thing that could set you free? This fear doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. Your mind has been trained to associate solitude with danger. For thousands of years, survival meant sticking close to the tribe, separation meant vulnerability. Today, the threat is gone, but the wiring remains. And society hasn't helped. You've been bombarded with the idea that being alone means being unwanted, that solitude is a punishment, that your value depends on how connected you are, how social you appear, how often someone reaches out. But that's a lie. A deeply rooted illusion. And the more you chase connection to avoid solitude, the more lost you feel when you're alone. The truth is, being alone is not the problem. It's what you believe it says about you. You've confused being alone with being unloved, with being forgotten, with being unworthy. But solitude isn't a reflection of your value. It's a reflection of your opportunity. The opportunity to finally listen, to heal, to find out who you are beneath the noise. When you stop running from silence, you begin hearing the truth your soul has been trying to tell you for years. That you are enough, even in your stillness. That you don't need someone else to validate your existence. That your worth has never depended on another person's presence. Stay with me, because this journey doesn't end in loneliness. It leads to freedom, to peace, to power. You're not here to fill every silence with sound or every space with someone else's energy. You're here to remember that you are whole on your own. That solitude isn't emptiness, it's clarity. When you finally embrace being alone, you don't lose yourself. You find the version of you that's been buried under layers of fear and distraction. This is your moment to stop fearing the quiet and start leaning into it, because the reward is massive. Emotional strength, inner peace, a kind of self-trust that can't be shaken. When you finish this video, you'll walk away not just unafraid of being alone. You'll crave it. You'll use it. You'll own it. And that shift will change your life forever. Stay with me, because what's waiting for you on the other side of fear is you, the real you, and it's time to meet them. Your mind was built for survival, not peace. That's why the silence feels threatening. It's why being alone triggers that ache in your chest, the one that tells you something's wrong, even when everything is still. But this isn't danger. It's unfamiliarity. You're feeling the weight of ancient instincts designed to protect you from a world that no longer exists. Back then, isolation meant exposure, vulnerability, the shadow of predators lurking beyond the fire. But now the threat isn't outside. It's within. It's the fear of your own thoughts, your own voice, your own presence. That's what you've been avoiding, not danger, not loneliness, yourself. But here's the truth. You are not a danger to yourself. You are not your thoughts. You are the one observing them. And when you understand that, everything changes. You realize that silence isn't your enemy. It's your invitation. An invitation to explore the parts of you that you've ignored, buried, or tried to quiet with noise. And yes, it's uncomfortable. Growth always is. But discomfort is not a reason to run. It's a reason to pause, to breathe, to stay. Because right on the other side of discomfort is the power you've been looking for. When you're constantly surrounded by people, distractions, and conversations, it's easy to lose touch with your truth. You become what others need. You mirror their emotions. You match their pace. You start living a life that looks full but feels empty. That's what happens when you never give yourself space to hear your own desires. But when you step back, when you allow yourself to be alone, you begin to hear it, a whisper, a calling, a voice that says, "This is who I really am." That voice is yours, and it's been waiting for you to listen. Solitude is not isolation. It's not abandonment. It's not a sentence. It's a strategy, a sacred space where you remember what you value, what you need, and what you will no longer tolerate. It's where you begin the process of becoming grounded, becoming resilient, becoming unapologetically aligned with your truth. Because when you know who you are in solitude, no one else can define you, no one else can shake you, and no one else can take away what you've built within. You don't need more distractions. You need more honesty. And honesty requires quiet. That's why this moment matters. It's not about just being okay with being alone. It's about learning to use that time, to rebuild, to reflect, to reconnect with the person you were before the world told you who to be. Alone doesn't mean lost. Alone means free. Free from performance, free from pressure, free to simply exist and be enough. Right now, you're not facing the fear of loneliness. You're facing the doorway to strength. And on the other side is a version of you that's calm, confident, and deeply connected. You don't need the noise. You just need the courage to stand in the quiet. That's where your power is. Loneliness hurts not because you're alone, but because of what you've been taught it means. You've been conditioned to believe that if no one is around, you must not matter. That silence equals rejection. That solitude is a verdict on your value. But none of that is true. You were not born afraid of being alone. You were taught to fear it by a world that equates connection with constant company and attention with affection. But connection without depth is just noise, and attention without respect is empty. The truth is, you can be surrounded by people and still feel completely invisible. You can smile, nod, engage, and still feel hollow inside. Because what you crave isn't people, it's presence, it's realness. It's the feeling of being fully seen. And that begins with how you see yourself when no one else is watching. You've spent so much time trying to be chosen, wanted, accepted. But how often have you chosen yourself? How often have you given your own heart the approval it begs for from others? Being alone is not a problem to be solved. It's a practice to be strengthened. It's where self-respect is born, where self-awareness grows, where your identity stops depending on the shifting winds of other people's opinions. Because when you find comfort in your own presence, you no longer seek completion in someone else's. There's a peace that only reveals itself when the world gets quiet, a clarity that rises when the performance ends. That's when the masks come off. That's when you realize you're not broken, you're just buried. Under years of needing to be everything for everyone, under habits that kept you distracted from your own truth. But now, you're here. You stopped running. You're sitting with the discomfort, and that alone makes you powerful. Because most people never do. Most people keep reaching for another text, another voice, another distraction. Anything to avoid the quiet truth of their own soul. But not you. Not anymore. You're learning that solitude isn't absence, it's alignment. It's the space where you decide what matters and what doesn't, who you are and who you refuse to be anymore. And in that space you realize that healing isn't always loud. Growth isn't always public. Sometimes the biggest transformations happen in silence, when you stop chasing and start choosing, when you stop needing and start knowing. If you're still afraid of being alone, it's because you haven't yet experienced what's on the other side. The calm, the confidence, the self-trust. You haven't yet seen how strong you become when you no longer fear your own reflection. But that strength is already inside you. It's not waiting to be found. It's waiting to be remembered. And when you remember who you are in solitude, the world can no longer make you forget. This is your turning point. Not to escape loneliness, but to step fully into your power. Because once you love being with yourself, you'll never feel alone again. Real confidence doesn't come from being liked. It comes from being okay when you're not. When the room is empty, when the phone is silent, when no one is checking in, that's where self-worth is tested. Not when you're celebrated, but when you're unseen. And if you can stand tall in those moments, if you can sit in your own silence without shrinking, then you've tapped into a strength most people never find. Because true power isn't loud, it's rooted. It's the kind of power that doesn't need validation to feel real. It doesn't need approval to breathe. It just is. And that's the power waiting inside you right now. You don't need to prove yourself to the world to be worthy of love, peace, or happiness. You don't need a spotlight to matter. You matter because you exist, because your presence alone carries weight. But when you attach your value to how others see you, you hand over your peace, you give away your stability, and you make your happiness conditional, dependent on attention, praise, presence. That's why solitude feels like suffering. Not because it's painful on its own, but because you've linked it to rejection. But what if you changed the meaning? What if instead of seeing it as a punishment, you saw it as a portal back to yourself, back to the version of you that didn't perform, that didn't chase, that didn't need to be seen to feel alive? When you shift your perspective, you stop feeling like solitude is something you have to survive. You begin to see it as a gift, as a sanctuary, as a return. Because in that quiet space, you remember how to speak to yourself, how to comfort yourself, how to build yourself from the inside out. The world will always try to convince you that you need more followers, more friends, more attention, more noise. But what you truly need is less distraction, less approval, less pretending. You don't become whole by adding more layers. You become whole by shedding everything that's not you. And the only place you can do that is in stillness, alone, away from the noise long enough to hear your own truth rise above it all. You're not missing anything. You're not broken. You're not behind. You're becoming. Every quiet moment is shaping you. Every silent hour is preparing you. And every time you choose to stay with yourself instead of escaping, you're rewriting your story. Not from fear, but from strength. Not from lack, but from power. The fear of being alone fades when you stop seeing solitude as emptiness and start seeing it as presence. Your presence. Strong, clear, unshaken. This is your foundation, not built on people but on purpose. And when you build from that place, no one can take it away from you. This is where your real life begins. Inside the quiet, and the courage to face it, and the choice to rise from it fully alive. You've spent so long believing you need someone else to complete you, to validate you, to confirm that you're enough. But the truth is, the person you've been waiting for is already here. It's you. And the sooner you realize that, the sooner everything begins to shift. Because when you stop searching outward for worth, you begin uncovering the kind of inner power that can't be shaken. You stop begging for acceptance and start giving it to yourself. You stop wondering if you're lovable and start loving yourself in the ways no one ever taught you. That's the transformation solitude offers. Not by changing you, but by revealing the real you underneath the noise. There is nothing missing from you. You are not a half waiting to be made whole. You are not a puzzle piece waiting to fit. You are complete. Exactly as you are. But you've been distracted by the world's version of success, by relationships that felt good but didn't serve you, by busyness that kept you from being still. You've confused stimulation with fulfillment, and now you're waking up. You're realizing that real fulfillment doesn't come from more, it comes from depth. Depth of self, depth of peace, depth of presence. And depth is only found when you go inward. Solitude gives you that depth. It strips away the external and forces you to confront what's real. Not what's presented, not what's performed, but what's honest. That confrontation is uncomfortable. It challenges the lies you've believed about who you are. But don't run from it. Stay. Because what feels like breaking is actually rebuilding. What feels like loss is really release. Release of everything false, temporary, and shallow. What you're left with is truth, and truth is the strongest foundation you will ever build upon. Stop measuring your value by how visible you are to others. Start measuring it by how present you are with yourself. That presence is the seed of every great change. It's where your intuition grows, where your self-trust begins, where confidence stops being a mask and starts being a core. And when you have that, you don't chase attention, and you don't fear silence. You walk into every space already whole, already full, already clear. That's what solitude teaches you, that you don't need to be everything to everyone. You just need to be everything to yourself. You are not lonely. You are in transition. You are shedding the need for outside validation. You are stepping into your own presence. And yes, it's unfamiliar. Yes, it's uncomfortable. But it's also sacred, because this is where strength is born, not in the crowd, but in the quiet, not in applause, but in alignment, not in being seen, but in truly seeing yourself. You are not here to fear the silence. You are here to master it. You are not here to escape solitude. You are here to use it, to rise through it, to become unshakable in it. Because when you know how to stand alone, you never truly feel alone again. There's a quiet kind of strength that builds when no one is watching. A strength born not from applause, but from presence, from sitting with yourself, hearing your thoughts without judgment, and refusing to run away. That's where transformation begins, not in noise, not in motion, but in stillness. When you learn to hold space for your own emotions, when you stop needing someone else to fix or rescue you, you begin to reclaim the power you've given away. You stop being controlled by fear, by loneliness, by the illusion that you are incomplete. Because the truth is, what you're searching for isn't out there. It's the permission to be whole right here. This is the power of emotional independence. The ability to feel sadness without sinking, to feel discomfort without retreating, to feel solitude without spiraling. You don't have to be rescued. You have to be present with your own mind, your own truth, your own heart. Most people never go there. They build lives around distraction, constantly filling the silence so they never have to hear their own voice. But when you choose to stay, when you choose to feel instead of flee, you begin to unlock something unshakable. You start to see that you don't need more from others. You need more from yourself, more patience, more compassion, more honesty. Facing yourself is not weakness. It's the deepest form of courage, because you can't change what you're unwilling to meet. And once you meet yourself fully, clearly, without excuses, you start to see the patterns. You see where you abandoned your own needs to be accepted, where you quieted your truth to avoid rejection, where you stayed small so others could feel comfortable. But you don't have to keep doing that. You don't owe anyone a version of you that shrinks to fit their expectations. Solitude allows you to rebuild your relationship with yourself, not the edited version, not the filtered one, but the raw, real, unpolished you. And that version is more than enough. That version is worthy of love, even without proving anything. That version is powerful, even in the silence. When you accept that version, you stop waiting for the world to tell you who you are. You start telling yourself, and that's when everything changes. Your life doesn't need to be filled to be full. You don't need constant interaction to feel alive. Aliveness comes from alignment, from knowing what matters, from choosing yourself again and again, especially when it's hard, especially when no one else is around to witness it, because your most important moments won't happen in the spotlight. They'll happen in solitude, in quiet decisions, in silent promises, in the daily choice to show up for yourself. You're not broken for needing space. You're not failing because you're alone. You're growing. You're healing. You're coming home to yourself. And the more you do, the less you fear being alone, because you begin to realize you were never really alone. You were just learning to stand in your own light. Every time you choose to be alone and stay grounded, you are rewriting the narrative of your life. You are no longer the person who runs from silence, who fills space with distractions just to avoid the discomfort of being with yourself. You're becoming someone who understands that being alone isn't the same as being abandoned. It's not rejection, it's reflection. And in that reflection, you don't find weakness, you find wisdom. You discover the parts of yourself you've ignored, the voice you silenced to fit in, the strength you buried to keep the peace. Alone, you can finally hear what your soul has been trying to say all along, that you are enough, that you are whole, that you are already everything you've been searching for. When you look in the mirror without rushing to judge or fix, something powerful happens. You start to see beyond the surface. You begin to see the resilience in your eyes. the courage in your scars, the quiet fire still burning in your chest. You recognize how much you've survived. Not just the big things, but the small daily moments where you chose to keep going when it would have been easier to give up. Alone, you finally see your own story clearly. You stop minimizing your pain and start honoring your growth. You stop needing someone else to notice your worth and begin to feel it from the inside out. This isn't about isolation. It's about liberation. It's about no longer depending on others to carry your happiness. It's about learning to generate peace from within, even when life feels heavy. And yes, that's a difficult shift. It's not something that happens overnight. But every time you stay with yourself, instead of abandoning yourself for temporary comfort, you build self-trust. And that trust is the foundation for everything else. It's what allows you to speak your truth, to make decisions that reflect your values, to walk away from what no longer serves you without feeling like you're losing something. You become your own safe place. You learn to sit in your own energy and feel settled, not anxious, empowered, not empty. And the more you practice, the stronger that feeling becomes. You stop chasing people who only show up when it's convenient. You stop apologizing for needing space. You stop shrinking your light to avoid being alone in the dark. Because now you understand that solitude isn't darkness, it's illumination. It shows you who you really are, without the noise, without the masks, without the performance. You were never meant to be afraid of your own company. You were meant to thrive in it, to grow in it, to rise through it. And the more you stand in that truth, the more unstoppable you become. Not because others approve of you, but because you finally approve of yourself. That is where your freedom lives. That is where your future begins. And that is who you were always meant to be. You've carried the weight of others' expectations for so long that you might have forgotten what it feels like to simply be yourself, to sit quietly with your thoughts and not feel pressure to perform, explain, or apologize. That feeling is freedom, the kind that doesn't come from external achievements or relationships, but from an unshakable connection to who you are deep inside. When you embrace solitude, you reclaim that freedom. You start to see that your value doesn't depend on how many people want to be near you. It depends on how deeply you respect and understand yourself. And that respect transforms fear into courage, hesitation into action, and doubt into confidence. Fear of being alone often masks a deeper fear of facing yourself honestly. But what if facing yourself is exactly what you need to grow? What if that silence you dread is actually an invitation to listen not just to your thoughts, but to your needs, your dreams, your pain? Most people run from this kind of reflection because it forces them to confront what they've ignored for years. But you are different. You are ready to lean in, ready to hold your own hand when the world feels too loud, ready to stand tall even when the noise of loneliness tempts you to fall. Because true growth doesn't happen in comfort zones. It happens in moments of raw, honest presence with yourself. There's a strength in choosing solitude that the world often overlooks. It's not about isolation or loneliness. It's about self-possession, about being your own anchor when life's storms hit. When you're alone, you learn how to calm your own mind, how to soothe your own heart, how to be your own source of light in the darkness. This isn't a weakness or a compromise, it's mastery. Mastery of your inner world. Mastery that radiates outward and transforms every area of your life. When you can be alone and feel whole, you no longer need anyone to complete you. Instead, you become whole on your own, and that wholeness attracts healthier, more authentic connections. This transformation rewires your brain and heart. It rewires how you relate to yourself and others. Instead of seeking approval, you seek truth. Instead of fearing rejection, you embrace authenticity. You stop shrinking to fit in and start expanding to be seen. The fear of being alone fades because you realize you are never truly alone. You carry your strength with you. That strength is born from moments when you chose presence over avoidance, courage over comfort, and truth over illusion. Each choice compounds, building resilience and self-love that no external circumstance can shake. You don't have to wait for someone else to validate your existence. You don't have to beg for attention or fear silence. You already have everything you need inside. The next time fear of being alone arises, meet it with the knowledge that this fear is just a sign you're on the edge of breakthrough. Lean into that edge. Step forward anyway, because the life you want, the life of peace, confidence, and freedom starts right here in the quiet courage of choosing yourself. This is your moment to rise, to transform, and to never again fear your own company. You have been conditioned to believe that being alone means being incomplete, that loneliness is a sign of failure or rejection. But this is a lie that keeps you trapped, constantly seeking others to fill a void that only you can fill yourself. When you step into solitude without fear, you shatter that lie and reclaim your wholeness. Solitude becomes your sanctuary, not your prison. It's where you learn that your worth isn't dependent on external voices, but on your own steady heartbeat. The courage to sit alone with your thoughts is the courage to honor yourself above all else. That courage rewires your entire existence, giving you a foundation so strong that no one's absence can make you feel small or unseen. The mind often tries to trick you into believing that silence means emptiness, but silence is the soil where your deepest growth takes root. It is in this silence you begin to uncover who you really are beneath the roles you've played, the masks you've worn, and the expectations you've carried. Facing yourself in this quiet space reveals your true power. You start to understand that your fears about being alone are just shadows created by habit and discomfort, not facts. As you sit with those shadows, they lose their grip. They no longer control your choices or dictate your emotions. Instead, you choose presence. You choose peace. You choose to build a relationship with yourself that no one else can break. This transformation is not about shutting the world out, but about tuning into the frequency of your own soul. When you learn to be your own companion, your life changes. You stop settling for less because you no longer tolerate neglect from yourself or others. You begin to set boundaries that protect your energy and nurture your growth. You become clear on what you need, what you want, and what you refuse to sacrifice. This clarity is liberation. It frees you from the exhausting cycle of seeking approval and chasing connection. Instead, you cultivate connection from a place of fullness, not neediness. Solitude teaches you the art of self-reliance, not the lonely, desperate kind, but the empowered, grounded kind. It trains your mind to find comfort in your own company, and your heart to trust its own guidance. This self-reliance becomes your armor against life's uncertainties. When you stand alone, you become untouchable by the fears that once haunted you. You develop resilience that does not depend on anyone's presence, but is born from your own unwavering commitment to yourself. This commitment is the seed of a life lived with intention, purpose, and fearless authenticity. There is an undeniable freedom in knowing you can face the world alone and still feel whole. This freedom is the key to unlocking your potential. It shifts your energy from desperation to desire, from lack to abundance. When you embrace solitude as your ally, you rewrite the story you've been telling yourself. No longer are you a person to be pitied for being alone. You become a warrior of your own soul, a creator of your own destiny. And that is the power that will carry you through every challenge, every setback, and every silent moment with unwavering grace and strength. There is a profound difference between being alone and feeling lonely, yet society often blurs the lines until they seem inseparable. Loneliness is the painful reminder of what's missing, a hollow ache that makes the heart want to run and hide. Being alone, however, is a choice. It is the deliberate space you create to meet yourself fully and without distraction. When you start to see solitude as a gift rather than a punishment, your entire perspective shifts. You begin to crave your own company not out of desperation, but out of deep respect and curiosity. This shift is the foundation for a life unshackled from fear. It's the gateway to a freedom few dare to pursue, a freedom born from embracing your own presence, no matter how raw or imperfect it feels. When you accept solitude, you are saying yes to your own growth. You are making peace with discomfort because you know it is temporary and necessary. You learn to listen to the quiet voice within that speaks truths louder than any crowd. That voice holds the map to your deepest desires and the courage to pursue them, even when the path is unclear. Fear tries to convince you that being alone is a threat to your survival, but in truth, it is the greatest survival skill you can develop. It teaches you how to stand firm in your values, how to make choices aligned with your soul, and how to nourish your inner world so it can sustain you through life's storms. This process requires patience and self-compassion. You must resist the urge to judge yourself for feeling vulnerable or imperfect during moments of solitude. These feelings are not weaknesses. They are signs that you are growing, that you are shedding old layers to reveal something stronger beneath. Each moment alone becomes a sacred opportunity to practice kindness toward yourself, to speak gently to your fears, and to hold space for your healing. This practice rewires your brain, building new neural pathways that connect presence with peace and solitude with empowerment. Over time, you begin to crave these moments of quiet because they bring clarity and strength that noise can never offer. The truth is, no one can save you from the fear of being alone but you. Others can offer companionship, support, and love, but the root of your courage must come from within. When you accept this responsibility, you reclaim your power. You become the author of your own life story, instead of a character in someone else's script. This ownership transforms every decision you make. You stop avoiding solitude out of fear and start seeking it out as a powerful tool for self-discovery and transformation. You learn that true connection with others is only possible when you have first connected deeply with yourself. As you cultivate this inner strength, you realize something remarkable. Being alone doesn't make you smaller, it makes you larger. It expands your capacity for love, resilience, and joy. It frees you from the need to control or cling, and allows you to flow with life's uncertainties with grace. Embracing solitude is not a retreat, it is a rise into the fullness of your own humanity. It is the bold declaration that you will no longer be ruled by fear, but guided by the quiet, powerful light that burns inside you. When you learn to embrace being alone, you discover an unexpected source of power that changes everything. It is a power that doesn't rely on others' presence or approval, but grows from within your own soul. This power fuels your ability to make choices grounded in self-respect rather than fear or neediness. It allows you to stand tall in the face of uncertainty and walk forward with confidence, even when the path feels uncertain. In solitude, you build a relationship with yourself that is unbreakable, one that carries you through life's challenges and invites growth beyond anything you imagined possible. This power is your foundation, your anchor, and your light. Fear tries to tell you that needing others is a weakness, but true strength is knowing how to balance connection with independence. Being alone does not mean cutting yourself off from the world. It means you are whole enough to choose who you allow into your life, rather than accepting anyone who will fill the silence. This discernment is a gift born from solitude, a clarity that sharpens your understanding of what truly serves you. You stop settling for relationships based on convenience or fear of loneliness. Instead, you attract connections that reflect your growing self-worth and honor your boundaries. This is not a punishment for being alone. It is a reward for loving yourself fiercely. Solitude forces you to confront your inner critic, the voice that feeds on your doubts and insecurities. But when you meet that voice with compassion instead of resistance, it begins to soften. You learn to replace harsh judgment with gentle curiosity. You start asking yourself not, why am I not enough? But what can I learn from this feeling? This shift in questioning rewires your brain and reshapes your emotional landscape. Your mind no longer runs wild with fear, but settles into a calm place where growth becomes possible. The quiet moments alone become fertile ground for healing and transformation. The courage to be alone also means embracing vulnerability, the willingness to sit with discomfort without immediately running away. This is where true growth happens. Vulnerability strips away the need for perfection and allows you to show up authentically, first to yourself and then to others. It is the gateway to deeper self-acceptance and freedom from the masks you wear to hide your fears. The more you practice vulnerability in solitude, the more resilient you become. You build an inner strength that does not depend on external validation, but flourishes in your own presence. In this space of self-reliance and vulnerability, you unlock a profound truth. Being alone is not emptiness, but fullness. It is a chance to recharge, reflect, and reconnect with your deepest desires and values. It is the secret wellspring from which your creativity, confidence, and courage flow. When you stop fearing solitude and start embracing it, you reclaim your life. You become the master of your own fate, empowered by the knowledge that you are enough, just as you are. This realization is the key to lasting peace and unstoppable transformation. True courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to act despite it. When you face the fear of being alone, you take the first step toward reclaiming your life. This act of bravery sets in motion a powerful transformation, one that reshapes your identity and redefines your relationship with yourself. It teaches you that the moments of silence and solitude you once avoided can become your greatest teachers. When you stop running from being alone, you start running toward your potential. You open the door to a life where your worth is not tied to company or noise, but anchored deeply in your own unwavering presence. Fear whispers that being alone will leave you hollow, but the opposite is true. Solitude fills the space you thought was empty with something far more meaningful. Clarity. Clarity about who you are beyond your roles, beyond your fears, beyond the judgments you have internalized. This clarity is a gift that empowers you to break free from patterns that have held you back. It frees you from the chains of seeking constant approval or distraction. Instead, you begin to stand firm in your own truth, no longer swayed by the fleeting opinions of others. This inner alignment creates a magnetic confidence that cannot be shaken by external circumstances. The practice of embracing solitude rewires your mind and heart in profound ways. You learn to befriend the quiet moments, recognizing them as opportunities for deep reflection, rather than threats to your well-being. Your nervous system gradually learns to settle instead of reacting, to breathe instead of panic. This physiological shift strengthens your resilience and heightens your emotional intelligence. As you become more comfortable in your own presence, you start to approach challenges with greater calm and clarity. Your decisions become rooted in wisdom rather than fear, and your actions carry the weight of self-trust. In this space of self-trust, you reclaim your power over your own narrative. You no longer define yourself by the absence of others, but by the richness of your inner world. You understand that your value is inherent and does not require external validation. This realization is transformative because it ends the exhausting cycle of seeking and losing, hoping and fearing. You become whole in yourself, and this wholeness ripples outward, influencing every aspect of your life. Relationships improve, opportunities expand, and your capacity to face life's uncertainties grows exponentially. Choosing to be comfortable with solitude is a radical act of self-love. It demands that you confront your fears honestly and compassionately, without judgment or avoidance. This choice rewires your brain's survival mechanisms and builds new pathways of courage and acceptance. Over time, these new neural connections become your default way of being. You carry your strength quietly and confidently, no longer needing others to feel safe or worthy. This is the foundation of lasting peace. A peace that transforms fear into freedom and loneliness into powerful solitude. Embracing this truth is the most profound gift you can give yourself, a gift that unlocks your highest potential and leads you to a life of fearless authenticity. The journey toward embracing solitude demands a shift in your inner dialogue, a shift from resistance to acceptance, from judgment to compassion. The way you speak to yourself in moments alone can either imprison you or set you free. When fear arises, it is easy to spiral into negative self-talk that deepens the sense of isolation. But what if you treated those fearful thoughts as clouds passing through a vast, clear sky, instead of storms you must endure? When you learn to observe your fears without attachment, you create a space where healing begins. This space is where true transformation happens, not by erasing fear, but by befriending it and choosing to act regardless. Your mind has been conditioned to equate being alone with danger. Yet this is a false narrative that can be rewritten. Rewiring your brain starts with simple yet profound steps, noticing when fear surfaces, labeling it without judgment, and reminding yourself that you are safe in this moment. This practice weakens fear's grip and strengthens your capacity to remain present. Over time, these moments accumulate into a new pattern of thinking, one where solitude is no longer a threat but a sanctuary. This sanctuary becomes the place where you reclaim your power, reconnect with your values, and align with your true self. Fear often thrives in the unknown, so transforming your relationship with solitude means learning to trust uncertainty. Being alone is the ultimate unknown territory, a blank canvas where you can create, reflect, and grow without distractions. When you embrace this uncertainty with curiosity rather than dread, you unlock a wellspring of creativity and insight. You realize that the answers you seek are not hidden in external validation, but waiting quietly inside you. This discovery empowers you to step into your own authority, make decisions confidently, and navigate life's complexities with grace. As you cultivate this trust in yourself, your capacity for resilience expands dramatically. Resilience is not about resisting hardship but flowing with it, adapting without losing your core. Solitude trains you to be your own anchor in turbulent times, providing a steady foundation from which you can respond rather than react. This self-reliance reduces anxiety and cultivates peace, creating a feedback loop that makes future moments of solitude easier to face. Each time you sit with yourself and withstand discomfort without fleeing, you reinforce this loop and deepen your emotional stamina. Ultimately, embracing solitude reshapes your entire sense of identity. You stop defining yourself by your relationships or external circumstances and begin to see yourself as a complete, evolving being. This shift frees you from the exhausting need for approval and comparison. Instead, you embrace your uniqueness, flaws and all, with kindness and pride. This acceptance nurtures authentic connections with others because it comes from a place of wholeness, not need. Being alone becomes a powerful act of self-love that radiates outward, influencing every area of your life with courage, clarity, and peace. This is the transformation that awaits when you stop fearing solitude and start embracing it as your greatest ally. When you begin to embrace solitude, you also unlock the power to reclaim your time and energy. resources often drained by the noise of constant interaction and distraction. Being alone is not about isolation, it is about creating a sacred space where your mind can rest and your spirit can breathe. This freedom allows you to prioritize what truly matters, free from the pressure to conform or please others. When you protect your time alone, you honor your needs and desires, and this respect for yourself ripples into every part of your life. You become the guardian of your own well-being, choosing to invest in what nourishes your growth rather than what drains your vitality. In solitude, your thoughts gain clarity. The clutter of daily life, obligations, opinions, comparisons, fades, revealing what you genuinely value. This clarity serves as a compass, guiding your decisions and actions toward your authentic purpose. It is in these quiet moments that you uncover your deepest motivations and fears, allowing you to confront them honestly. When you face these truths without distraction, you become stronger, more aligned, and less susceptible to external influence. This internal alignment is the foundation of lasting confidence and peace. The fear of being alone often masks a deeper fear of facing yourself. But what you discover when you turn inward is not a void, but a vast reservoir of strength and potential. Solitude invites you to develop self-awareness, a keen understanding of your emotions, triggers, and desires. This self-awareness becomes a powerful tool for transformation, enabling you to break free from patterns that no longer serve you. It empowers you to make choices that reflect your true self, rather than reactions to past pain or external expectations. In this way, solitude is not a punishment but a path to liberation. Embracing being alone also nurtures creativity and innovation. Without the constant input of others, your mind is free to explore new ideas, experiment with possibilities, and tap into your intuition. This creative solitude fuels personal growth and problem-solving, helping you see challenges as opportunities rather than obstacles. The silence becomes fertile ground for imagination and insight, inspiring you to envision a life that reflects your highest aspirations. When you embrace solitude, you reclaim your ability to create, innovate, and lead your own journey. Above all, being comfortable alone teaches you self-compassion. It invites you to treat yourself with the kindness and understanding you might reserve for others. This compassion softens the harsh judgments and self-criticism that often accompany loneliness. Instead of resisting your feelings, you learn to accept and nurture them. This self-compassion creates a safe internal environment where healing and growth flourish. It strengthens your emotional resilience, enabling you to face life's uncertainties with grace and courage. By choosing solitude, you choose to love yourself fully, and that love becomes the anchor that steadies you through all seasons of life. Every moment you spend alone is an opportunity to build the relationship with yourself that you've been avoiding. This relationship is the cornerstone of your entire life, your foundation for every choice, every connection, every dream you pursue. When you fear being alone, you are resisting the chance to meet yourself fully and honestly. But the truth is, you cannot escape yourself. You carry your thoughts, your doubts, and your feelings wherever you go. So why not turn toward that presence instead of running from it? When you face yourself without distraction or denial, you take control. You become the author of your own story rather than a passenger carried by circumstance and fear. Being alone reveals what you truly need to heal and grow. It shines a light on the parts of you that have been hidden or ignored. Insecurities, regrets, hopes, and strengths alike. This awareness is not a weakness, it is a doorway. It leads to radical self-acceptance and transformation, because you begin to see yourself with compassion instead of judgment. You learn that your flaws and scars do not diminish your value, they enrich your humanity. The more you accept your whole self in solitude, the more you prepare yourself to face the world with courage and authenticity. This self-acceptance is a powerful antidote to loneliness because it replaces emptiness with fullness. When you choose to be alone, you claim the power to decide what fills your life. You stop allowing fear or habit to dictate your actions. Instead, you become intentional about your time, your thoughts, and your energy. This intentionality is a declaration of self-respect, a way of saying, I matter. My peace matters. It shifts your perspective from scarcity to abundance, because you realize that solitude is not a punishment but a privilege. It is the rare chance to pause, reflect, and reset. In this pause, you find the strength to break free from toxic dependencies, and the clarity to pursue what truly nourishes your soul. Solitude also deepens your capacity for empathy and connection with others. It may seem counterintuitive, but when you cultivate a strong inner life, you become more present and authentic in your relationships. You stop seeking validation or approval because you have found those within yourself. This freedom allows you to engage with others from a place of generosity and honesty rather than neediness or fear. Your interactions become richer, more meaningful, and less draining. You attract people who respect and honor the whole you, including your need for space and reflection. Ultimately, learning to be comfortable alone is a profound act of self-mastery. It requires patience, courage, and consistent effort. But with each step forward, you rewrite the story of fear into a story of strength. You transform solitude from a source of anxiety into a wellspring of power. This transformation unlocks your ability to live fully, without fear, without dependence, and with unshakable confidence in your own presence. In embracing yourself completely, you discover the freedom to create a life that reflects your deepest truth and highest potential. This is the gift solitude offers, waiting for you to accept it now. The true power of being alone lies in the freedom to listen deeply to your own inner voice. In the chaos of everyday life, it is easy to drown out your intuition with the noise of others' expectations and opinions. But when you embrace solitude, you create the space to hear yourself clearly. This quiet clarity reveals what you really want, what fears have held you back, and what courage lies dormant within. Listening to yourself is an act of profound respect and trust. It signals that your thoughts, feelings, and desires deserve attention. When you give yourself this permission, you build a foundation of self-trust that no external circumstance can shake. This self-trust is a transformative force. It changes how you respond to challenges and setbacks. Instead of seeking approval or fearing judgment, you rely on your own wisdom to guide you. This shift empowers you to take bold steps toward your dreams, knowing that you have the inner resources to navigate uncertainty. The more you practice this, the stronger your confidence grows, creating a positive cycle that propels you forward. You begin to see yourself as capable, resilient, and worthy of the life you envision. This is not wishful thinking. It is a proven psychological shift that rewires your brain for success and well-being. Solitude also nurtures emotional regulation, giving you the tools to manage difficult feelings without avoidance. When you are alone, you face emotions head-on instead of distracting yourself or seeking external fixes. This honest engagement builds emotional intelligence, allowing you to understand the roots of your fear, sadness, or loneliness. As you become fluent in your emotional language, you gain the ability to soothe yourself and move through discomfort with grace. This self-soothing is critical because it reduces reactivity and helps you respond thoughtfully rather than impulsively. Over time, this skill creates inner calm and steadiness, making solitude less intimidating and more inviting. The practice of being alone challenges you to confront your attachments and dependencies. These are often invisible chains, habits of seeking validation, approval, or comfort from others to fill an inner void. When you sit with yourself in solitude, these patterns become clear. This awareness is the first step toward freedom. You learn to differentiate between healthy connection and unhealthy reliance. This discernment empowers you to build relationships that support your growth rather than diminish it. You become selective about where you invest your energy and whom you allow into your inner circle. This protection of your emotional space strengthens your overall resilience and joy. Choosing to be comfortable alone rewires your brain for greater independence and self-worth. It teaches you that you are complete as you are, not because of who is around you. This realization shifts your entire experience of life. Instead of fearing solitude, you begin to crave it as a source of renewal and strength. This craving fuels your commitment to growth and self-care, creating a cycle of empowerment that touches every part of your existence. The courage to be alone is ultimately the courage to be yourself, fully, unapologetically, and with unwavering confidence. This courage transforms fear into freedom, and solitude into your greatest ally. When you learn to be alone without fear, you unlock the power to define your own worth. Too often we tie our value to external factors, approval, relationships, achievements. But these things are fragile and temporary. True worth is not something given or taken away. It is something you claim for yourself in the quiet moments when no one else is watching. This self-defined worth becomes an unbreakable anchor, steadying you in the storm of life. It is a shield against rejection, criticism, and loneliness because it rests on a foundation built from within, not on shifting external validation. Recognizing your inherent value shifts the way you treat yourself. It invites gentleness where there was once harshness, patience where there was frustration. You start to honor your needs instead of ignoring or suppressing them. This respect for yourself nurtures healthier habits and choices that support your growth and well-being. It allows you to set boundaries without guilt, to say no without fear, and to protect your energy fiercely. These boundaries are not walls to keep others out. They are gates that regulate what enters your life, ensuring that you remain true to yourself and your purpose. This internal worth also changes your relationship with failure. When your self-esteem is rooted internally, failure no longer feels like a devastating blow but a necessary part of learning and growing. You begin to see setbacks as feedback, not as final judgments on your value. This perspective fuels resilience and courage because you understand that your essence remains intact regardless of outcome. You become willing to take risks, try new things, and face uncertainty with the knowledge that you can recover and thrive no matter what happens. This mindset shifts your entire experience from one of fear and hesitation to one of boldness and curiosity. Being alone also teaches you the art of self-compassion, which is the balm for your deepest wounds.